MotoGP is back in Australia, and I have a quick recap of the weekend so far, and if you stay to the end, you'll see what I think is going to happen in Sunday's Grand Prix. And firstly, we can't talk about the Australian Grand Prix without talking about the weather, which is always a factor. Basically rained out free practice 1 and made practice 2 very, very tricky for everyone. And those tricky conditions continued into Saturday's qualifying, making Q1 basically whoever finishes last is going to finish first. All right, I probably need to explain that one. Basically, as the riders in Q1 were riding, the track was getting better and better. They were getting more and more familiar with the tricky conditions. And so the lap times were basically faster every single time around. So whoever timed it to perfection, the rider that was basically on the track last was going to get the fastest lap. And that was Trackhouse Racing's Raul Fernandez and Enea Bastianini salvaging his weekend by going through as the second position. Now in Q2, do we have to say anything other than Jorge Martin? I mean, do we? Australia? Jorge Martin? That's all I'm going to say about it. And I'm tempted to say the same thing about the Saturday sprint because there was no one in Jorge Martin's league. Except maybe Marc Marquez. He makes a big mistake going into turn 1 in the very first lap and kind of pushed himself really far back. And after that, he was blazing fast. He might have been the one rider that could challenge Jorge in this race. It's just that mistake cost him big time. But didn't cost him too much. He ends up second place on the podium yet again in a Saturday sprint. And Enea Bastianini, after coming through that Q1, getting into Q2, finds himself on the podium in the sprint. And Pecco Bagnaia finishing 4th place. He's going to be looking for way more in Sunday's Grand Prix. But the real talking point of this race came a little further back, where we had a very scary incident between Maverick Viñales and Marco Bezzecchi. Viñales makes a move on Bezzecchi. They get to the braking zone, and Bezzecchi locks the front, slamming into the back of Maverick Viñales, going 140 miles an hour. Now, luckily, both riders are okay, but okay is pretty relative in this scenario because both of them saw some hospital time, and we still don't know if they're both going to race on Sunday. And now for my Sunday predictions. Will Jorge Martin dominate Sunday as he did Saturday? I don't think so. I think Marc Marquez is going to be there. He's going to learn from that mistake at the Saturday sprint, and he's going to take the fight to Jorge Martin, and Marc Marquez is going to win the Australian Grand Prix. Pecco Bagnaia is going to pick up the pieces and get on the podium, but he's still going to lose points to Jorge Martin, who I think finishes second. And in the not-so-good prediction department, I'm going to predict that Pedro Acosta, he's going to end up in the gravel again. Sorry, Pedro Acosta fans.